Hello there, welcome to my channel. This is the second part in a two-part video series around the top 10 e-ink note-taking device manufacturers out there. We covered 6 through 10 in the previous video, and this is going to be a video covering the top 5. I think you'll see there's a pretty significant jump in terms of quality and consistency in the top 5. You've got a really good list of manufacturers and a good list of devices that they have put on the market in each of the entries we're going to talk about today. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. Okay, coming in at number 5, the Amazon Kindle. Now, some people may balk at Amazon being ranked this high. I think it's compelling that they are such a major brand. And obviously, when people talk about e-ink, the first thing most people think about is the Kindle. Now, it's true, there were e-ink devices before Amazon. I had a Sony reader, for example, but Kindle is really what broke e-ink so much into the mainstream. They're obviously a major player in the e-reader space, but what about e-note-taking? Well, not so much. They've only released 2 devices, really a device and a small iteration on that device, called the Kindle Scribe. And it's true that the Kindle Scribe is probably one of the most basic of the e-note-taking devices out there, arguably even more basic than Kobo, although not by a long shot. I think a lot of people were excited when Kindle entered the marketplace, thinking that they were going to be a major player and the software was just going to develop and grow and eventually be competing with some of the other device manufacturers on this list. But I think it's pretty clear by now that, much like Kobo, Amazon's focus is around just having a writing experience that accentuates the reading experience. After all, Amazon, like Kobo, and like Pocketbook or any other of these companies that predominantly focus on e-readers, is really about selling books more than anything. So unfortunately, the Scribe, although has developed since it was first released, it still remains a fairly basic note-taking experience. So why rank them so high? Just because of the brand recognition. There's really 2 companies on this list that dominate in terms of brand recognition. Amazon's one of them. So they kind of leap ahead of Kobo just for that reason alone, and that's why I've ranked them number 5. As big as Amazon is, there's another player in this space that probably has maybe as much brand recognition, and that's our number 4 entry, Remarkable. Remarkable's only released 3 devices in their history, 2 of which you can still purchase today, the Remarkable 2 and the Remarkable Paper Pro, which isn't even a year old yet. But they have made such an incredible mark. You could argue they're one of the seminal companies that have really kind of developed this e-ink note-taking space. Remarkable has a very refined UI, has really excellent online features, although there is a subscription to access those, at least the full suite of features. And they're the only company that has a subscription, so they do stand out kind of negatively for that. But there's no question that the Remarkable marketplace is huge. Their subreddits are one of the largest of any of the e-ink device manufacturers. And they're clearly a force in this industry. Kind of on the negative side of that, though, is they tend to be a little bit simpler in terms of the functionality. They're not nearly as simple as Kindle is or Kobo. They're much more sophisticated than those 2 companies, but they're much less sophisticated than the other companies we're going to talk about on this list. And their lack of growth has been a frustration for a lot of people. It's not that the devices aren't developing, they're just not developing nearly as much as the marketplace as a whole is. And that's somewhat disappointing. But in terms of what they do offer, it's a very solid, very stable experience. And a lot of people really like the Remarkable devices, so it's a solid entry at number 4. Some people would argue that the most interesting device to come out of 2024 was the Remarkable Paper Pro. It brought together a whole new size class for e-ink note-taking devices. It brought back Gallery 3, which is a color technology that everyone, including myself, thought was dead and wasn't going anywhere. And so it was just a really interesting player that came out of nowhere. But the most interesting company that came out from last year was Viwoods. ViWoods didn't exist as far as anyone knew until they released their Kickstarter campaign at the end of July. They've since released two products, a 10.7 5-inch screen as well as an 8-inch screen. And those devices not only are really good, they've been doing nothing but getting better month after month. I think ViWoods, actually, of all of the companies we're talking about on the list, is the most interesting and exciting company to follow. They just haven't quite reached the level of sophistication as the top two companies on the list, which we'll get to shortly. But the thing about ViWoods to understand is they originally marketed their device as AI devices, and definitely they've incorporated and integrated AI much better than the other companies have. They have like a button that can just bring up a chat bot. They have customized AI queries that you can create in your note-taking app along with other areas of the document. Not everywhere AI is implemented makes sense or is useful, but it is useful and it actually makes a lot of sense some of the time, and what they've done with it, I think, is generally fairly impressive. But what's even more interesting about this device is, let's say that you don't want to use the AI devices, you just want to use it as a sophisticated note-taking device, and it does that really well. It might be the best screen that I've ever written on. There's another device that we'll go to later in the list that uses the same screen technology, but because there's no film on these ViWoods device, I just feel like it's the most connected device I've ever written on. It's just a pleasure to use, in addition to all the development. So what type of development are we talking about? When the device was released, there were a handful of apps that you could run on ViWoods, and now it's completely opened up to the Google Play Store. There were a handful of areas where you had AI inserted into the UI, and now that's been expanded. And again, customizable queries are great because you can have it do exactly what you want to do. The expansion of AI features, it used to be that AI would only analyze a particular page. Now it can do multiple pages depending on where you're at in the device, and I can go on and on. They've done an amazing job. They've become quickly from nothing to a major player, and they've definitely earned that top 3 spot that I'm giving them on this list. Okay, coming in at number 2, Supernote. Supernote is a company that's, I think, released, I believe, 6 devices in their history. Their latest devices, the Manta and the Nomad. The Manta is their larger 10.75 inch screen, and the Nomad is their 8-inch device, are probably the most professional note-taking tools that we have out there on this list. Just an incredible feature set, very well thought out in terms of how those tools are implemented. I think of Supernote as being just some of the best note-taking flow. So if you're in a meeting, you want to quickly erase something while the meeting is still going on, you can do that better than you can with other devices. There's other features as well. It has a dedicated drawing app, which people really like, called Atelier. You can also annotate on documents, which of course you can do with a number of other manufacturers on this list, but they do an excellent job at all of those, and again, in a very professional package. Solid hardware, just really good quality control, and just a great professional experience from top to bottom. Supernote is definitely a top player. It's the device I use as a daily driver and I've used for a number of years now. You just can't go wrong with a Supernote, and that's why they're number 2 on my list. So number 1 is obvious, and that's books. Now, a lot of people may balk at me saying books is number 1. They may point to, the Supernote is a more professional note-taking experience, or ViWoods is a more creative and innovative company right now. Why is books number 1? They're not the best at everything they do. And that's true, but books is among the best in everything they do. They're among the best in terms of how Android applications work because they have access to the Google Play Store. They're among the best in terms of their note-taking app. Actually, they may have more features per square inch than any other device. Is it as well thought out as the Supernote? not in my opinion, but it's still incredibly detailed and excellent. Their reading app, I have some things I don't like about the reading app in terms of the user interface, but it's still the most powerful reading app out there. If you're going to do annotations on a document, you should be looking to Books first before you're looking at other companies. And I could just keep going. Books has a product line that's as varied as Bigme's, but a little more quality control. Bigme may match Books in terms of hardware, but Books' software is, and it's always been, more advanced. Books is just an incredible player in this space, and no one really should buy an e-ink note-taking device without considering Books as part of their thought process. You may not end there, but it definitely has to be considered. Just an amazing company that does so much so well. It's not perfect. There are blemishes, but they're such a good jack of all trades, and they have such a large selection of devices. In the end, they just had to be number one on this list. All right, so there you have it. Those are my top 10 based on my years of experience in reviewing devices from all these companies and more. If you disagree with the order, I'd love to hear about it. Pop those in the comments and why. As always, of course, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.